Well, in other news, President Biden speaks to the nation in his State of the Union address tonight. The latest polling shows most of the country is critical of the president. Overall, only 37% approve of the job he's doing, while 55% disapprove. So joining us now is David Brody. He's CBN's chief political analyst. So, David, tell us what's in store. How is President Biden going to balance Ukraine with domestic issues?
Well, let's be clear, Gordon. Even though he will try and balance the speech, this is going to be about Ukraine. It's going to be about Russia. It's going to be about everything going on in the last, 72 to 96 hours, if you will, of this last week or so. And so the speechwriters have clearly changed the focus of the speech. Yes, you'll hear all of the domestic priorities like every other State of the Union. But what will be remembered from this speech is exactly what he says about Ukraine. And I've got to tell you, Gordon, it's going to be interesting because we know what the president's going to say tonight. He's going to talk about the moral authority of America to lead, but that raises a host of a couple different interesting scenarios and questions. He talks about that moral authority to lead, but a couple of things. First of all, what is he doing other than sanctions? I mean, you just talked about ammunition, right? Zelensky needs ammunition. Well, I don't think Americans want boots in the ground in Ukraine, but what are they doing besides sanctions? I think that'll be an outstanding question. And then internally, domestically, a lot of people say, well, look, if you're going to morally lead, America needs to morally lead in Ukraine and around the world. What about right at our southern border? So I think he's got some explaining to do as it relates to how he protects domestic priorities while he's trying to as well help Ukraine and what's happening on their border.
Well, let's talk about the economy. Let's talk about the famous Reagan versus Carter debate. Are you worse off? Are you better off today than you were 2 years ago? I think that's going to be a campaign slogan for the Republicans this year. So a poll showing 35% of Americans report being worse off under President Biden, only 17% saying they're doing better. So what does this mean for the speech? What does it mean for Democrats this year?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, you know that Joe Biden, and all presidents do this, right? They come out and say the state of our union is strong. This just into Joe Biden. No, it's not. And Americans know that. So it starts off with a lie. I mean, let's be honest. We all know the state of our union is not strong whatsoever. And here's the thing, Gordon. The State of the Union speech might be delivered in the United States Capitol tonight. But really, if you think about it, the state of our union is being decided every day in grocery stores when people look and say, wait, milk costs how much exactly? Or if you want to buy a plane ticket, wait, hold on. Or when you go out to dinner and you say, well, that portion looks a little smaller. We've got shrinkflation going on, and we can just go down the list. Look, this is where the State of the Union is being decided, sadly, for Joe Biden. What's interesting is you're going to hear Joe Biden talk about a lot of positive economic numbers. GDP growing 5.7% just recently. Unemployment down to 4%. Well, hold on for a second. Can we put the asterisk in here for a moment? Because there was something called, that's right, COVID the last 2 years that really shot this economy in more than just the foot, all over, if you will. And so now we're coming out of that. And so obviously the economic numbers are going to be better. But you won't hear that part of it, obviously. And that's the spin tonight at the State of the Union.
Well, is there anything that the president can say tonight that will turn around his approval numbers?
Well, I'll be honest, Gordon. Yeah, there's a lot he could say tonight that would help with independence, but he's not going to say it. And that is to go to the cultural aspect of what's happening in this country, whether it be school closures from COVID or mask mandates or vaccine mandates or critical race theory or, what's happening, in the Loudoun County suburbs of the United States. All of the frustration that parents have across this country. That's what happened with Glenn Youngkin, why he is governor of Virginia today. But Joe Biden won't talk about any of that. He has doubled down with the left, and he won't do it. So, look, if he wants to save himself politically and get his numbers up, he would address that head on and talk about the state of our union being in disarray when it comes to what's happening in the suburbs in America. But he's not going to do it. So, therefore, we head to November with a red wave right in front of the Democrats.
Well, let's talk about the progressive wing of the party. I've never heard of a party of a sitting president giving their own response to the State of the Union, but that's exactly what's going to happen with the progressive wing tonight. Representative Rashida Tlaib is going to do that. So why? And is he running against his own party?
Well, he is, and this is the problem. It's interesting. Biden wanted to kind of be the next FDR. He's been catering to the far left as much as he can, but the far left just doesn't think it's far enough. And so that's what you're going to see tonight. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the Tea Party. If you remember, the Tea Party at the time, well, that was, of course, during Barack Obama's years. But there were times where the Republican Party, whether it be a Rand Paul or someone, would actually talk about their priorities, even when there was a Republican president. So, this has happened before on the Republican side, but the Democrats typically stay very, very united. And so this shows the fracture, the fissure. And look, this is just bad optics for the Democrats. There's no reason for her to do this other than they want to put Joe Manchin in his place because they're frustrated at Joe Manchin because he scuttled the Biden agenda. And that's really what this is all about. Now, here's the issue, Gordon. The far left in this country really believes they have the winning hand. They think this is where the country is headed. Well, they don't have the numbers. Having said that, they may have the next generation. And I think that's the bigger concern writ large for America. But they believe that looking at the Gen Zs and some of those folks, and they say, well, wait a minute. We're going to make the play for the next generation here. And I think it's a longer term goal, and that's why they're doing it.
Well, I'll go back to the Carter years. That same play was made, and they ended up with Reagan and then Bush. So I'm not sure that play is going to work. Anyway, any predictions? Since Clinton's second term, I've always viewed these as grand theater. And you really don't pick up anything new. Should we look for something new, or is this just going to be yet another theatrical speech?
It's theatrics, Gordon. That's what it really is. The day and age of the State of the Union being this big deal where you waited around for it once a year, when it was 1975 or 1985, when you didn't have all these choices and social media out there. But nowadays, it's coming so fast and furious that the State of the Union just becomes another blip on the radar, quite frankly. And, the problem for Joe Biden is it'd be one thing if he could maybe change a policy here, a policy there, but he has to change a trajectory. His trajectory has been poor ever since he took office, really. It's gone downhill. And if you notice, it was Afghanistan. I believe, Gordon, that Afghanistan will be potentially his downfall in 2022 with these midterms, potentially in 2024. That's where the trajectory really started to go poorly for Biden. Why? Because people thought he was incompetent with Afghanistan. And that's when his poll numbers with the economy and everything else started to tank as well. They said, look, if he can't get Afghanistan right, what can he get right? And that's where we are today.
All right. Well, David, thanks for the insights. You can always watch CBN's live coverage of the State of the Union, along with an analysis reporting by our team in Washington. David will be part of that, so you can watch live tonight. CBN News Channel at 9 Eastern. You can also download the CBN News app or the CBN Family app, and you can watch live there.